Before we get started on today's episode of the GoldCast, we wanted to emphasize that while we are a non-biased, apolitical television show or YouTube show, having said that, it is November 3rd is here, election time is here, and we are strongly advocating that you use your voice and you vote. Get out there and vote. And if you got your mail-in ballot, get it to a box, pop it in there, but exercise your right. This is one of the most important elections, one of the most important voting cycles in the history of the country. And regardless of what you think, regardless of who you support, left, right, up, down, north, south, get out there and vote. Next thing we want to address is the fact that our preview episode of the 49ers Seahawks is not on this channel. That is due to, unfortunately, a video malfunction. We had Johnny Dell on the show, and there was a malfunction. It was just a software glitch, and unfortunately, we were unable to use the footage. And with the timing, with the schedules, and the way all this stuff syncs up, it wasn't possible to re-record the episode. So if you go to Spotify, if you go to Apple Podcasts, if you go to wherever any of our podcasts are available, you can listen to the entire audio of our preview episode there. But it's going to be a lot more optimistic than the actual outcome of the game. So either way, here we go. Our recap of 49ers Seahawks. Let's go.
This is the GoldCast.
Boom! Welcome to another edition of the GoldCast. We are the voice of the Bay. I'm your host, Rudy3 and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Solis the first, baby.
Boom! Raymond, oh man, I don't even know where to begin. We ended last week's episode very optimistic. I believed that the Niners were going to win by 3. I believe you and Johnny Dell. Thank you, Johnny Dell, for coming on the show. We will get his face on here very soon to do a whole mid-season recap. That is happening. But we believed that you guys said that we were going to win within a touchdown. We thought that the defense of Seattle, or lack thereof, would be the real difference in the game. But the real difference in the game actually turned out to be our very porous O-line, the injuries to Jimmy G and George Kittle. Kittle looks like he's probably out for the season, and it pretty much turned into like our worst nightmare, which was all of our guys going down and us having no chance. I thought some of Kyle Shanahan's play calling was a little suspect, especially in the first quarter. Felt like he was maybe doing a little too much. I'm talking about the play with Jimmy G going out to wide receiver. I thought that was one of the strangest plays I've ever seen Kyle Shanahan pull off, and I don't even think Jimmy G did a very good job to sell it. I don't understand with a high ankle sprain, are you putting him at wide receiver? Who believes that Jimmy G with a high ankle sprain is going to do anything at wide receiver? But I digress. I'm not really one to Kyle Shanahan's forgotten more football plays than I'll ever even begin to grasp. Not even 1% of what he knows. So, but having said that, just from an outsider looking in, I thought that was a weird play. Raymond, this game quickly got out of hand. And in the third quarter, I believe it was the third quarter, Jimmy G went down with another high ankle sprain. And the 49ers brought in Nick Mullins. Nick Mullins provided a little bit of reprieve. He ended up earning us 20 points in the fourth quarter alone to save us some type of respect. The final score of this game was 27-37 in favor of the Seahawks. But while it was only a 10-point difference, the game itself was far more brutal than the actual score. The actual final score shows a tough game, and obviously leaving us with a lot of questions on what exactly is going to be the remainder of this season. What is the outlook for Jimmy Garoppolo? Steve Young had some pretty choice words to say, not criticisms, but just some observations that we'll be discussing and unpacking here in real time, coming from one of the Niner GOATs. And so, but Raymond, let's get to your thoughts and feelings first on what ended up being a really, really brutal game.
Well, I thought that the defense actually played really good in the first series against Seattle. Really stifled the run game, sacked Russell Wilson. It was great. They were fast. They played tight coverage and they also played contained too. So that was great to see. And Seattle was already hurting in the running back department. And they didn't necessarily do all that great. I mean, they needed 5 different runners, including Russell Wilson, just to surpass 100 yards rushing on the day, which, by the way, was just 101 at the end of that contest. But Jimmy G looked just as uncomfortable throwing in this game as he did in the Miami game for some reason. Even though he was several weeks removed from that game and played significantly better in the previous 2 weeks, but for some reason just kind of seemed like he was again stepping off that foot, as Mark Schlereth pointed out in the color commentary booth, that Jimmy was obviously not planting on his back foot and getting power into his throws, and as a result throw that horrible pick that was forced over to George Kittle, and that led to 7 points. And then there was the fumble later on that also led to a pick. There was I think 4 or 5 turnovers in this game. I mean, JaMychal Hasty's fumble ended up getting overturned because the first player to touch the ball was out of bounds, and by rule it's a dead ball at that point. But that was still, Dante Pettis got knocked out, fumbled the ball, that led to a score. The difference in this game, in terms of scoring at least, was the turnover battle. We lost the turnover battle convincingly, and that ended up being the difference in points. They got 10 points out of those turnovers, and that was the difference in the game. So even if they hadn't gotten that, they still would have won the game by at least a field goal, 3 points, but it would have been a much closer contest at that point. We really couldn't get anything going on the run, although Tevin Coleman looked great in the opening series. He was averaging 6.7 yards per carry, but then on that third carry, something happened and he hobbled back to the sideline and we never saw him again. JaMychal Hasty looked like a rookie in this game, averaging only 2.4 yards per carry and 1 touchdown. Jerick McKinnon was not so great on the ground. Again, negative 0.03 yards in the game. He was much better in the passing game. He caught 4 balls for 40 yards, averaged 10 yards reception. So that was great to see from him. But this was really Brandon Ayuk and Kendrick Bourne's game because everyone else went down. And if you had Brandon Ayuk in fantasy, by the way, that was a good day for you. I know it was for me. So, but that was really the only bright spot I saw in this game. Defensively, our corners just kept getting burned. DK Metcalf had his way, just amazing speed. He's obviously taken a great leap in his polish this season, and he definitely looks like, a Pro Bowl wide receiver this year. And he showed lots of flashes last year, but there was a lot of undiscipline last year. But this year we're seeing a much more refined version where he's tightened all of those mechanics up. And that big run, the first score he had where no one could just seem to catch him, that's like stuff that honestly reminds me of like Terrell Owens, because Terrell Owens was big, but he had amazing speed, great yards after the catch, just really, really tough to bring down. And that's what we saw today out of DK Metcalf. But I don't really want to sit here kind of kissing any more ass of the Seattle Seahawks. The point is that the Niners played like shit and were never ever really. I felt like after the Jimmy G pick, that's when really things spiraled out of control and got out of hand. And the Niners were never able to recover. Nick Mullins salvaged some dignity with the 20 points in the fourth quarter, but by then the damage had been done. The defense was gas, and there was no stopping Russell Wilson and company at that point. And it was just really, really difficult to watch. I actually stopped watching because I knew, I'm not a fair weather fan, but I know a blowout when I see one, and I knew that was coming, and I hate losing with a passion. I hate losing more than I love winning. So to sit there and endure a loss of that caliber, I was just like, I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to, I'm going to swallow this pill. And, I feel like the Niners, I feel like they're like the crew in the Nostromo. in the 1979 horror classic Alien. And I feel like the xenomorph is the injury bug just picking off crew members on our ship one at a time. Every week someone goes down and doesn't seem to return. Jimmy G is most likely going to be done for, I would guess, 6 to 8 games. So we'll either get him back in
practically the whole season.
George Kittle's officially done for 8 games. He's on long-term IR. That means that's the rest of the season. So 8 games is the rest of the season. Unless for some osmosis miracle they make it into the wild card, then sure, we can get George Kittle back for the playoffs. But I don't really see that happening at this point. I see, again, the team wins some, the team loses some. Right now they're 4-4. Again, I think they're right now, because of the injuries, it's weird how it's like, I'm not really superstitious about this kind of thing in sports, but it just seems to like not want to go away. Every week somebody has to go down, and it's just really frustrating. I know it has to be infuriating for Kyle Shanahan and the staff to watch this. Like, why can't these guys stay healthy? We bring back Tevin Coleman. He has a great week of practice, 3 carries, knocked out of bounds, the knee goes out, and now he's done. I don't understand it, but baseball has weird trends like this too because it's a long season. But football is a much shorter season, and so this anomaly of injured players, I just don't get it. 2 out of the last 3 seasons with Kyle Shanahan has just been an absolute train wreck of injuries, and I don't necessarily know how they're supposed to get out of that. We already fired all of the staff that got us into the mess the first time. What do? Fire the entire staff again and get a whole new director? I don't get it. I don't know. I'm kind of out of answers on this one.
I really am too. I honestly have no idea either. I don't know what the answer is, and it's the same thing. I agree with you. We are supposed to have this brand new, super innovative staff that kind of is redoing the book on how all this works, and I don't really see any major improvement. So I'm not really sure what this is supposed to bring for us. I think I agree with everything you said, and I think we might as well go right for the jugular right here. And we have to talk about Jimmy G. I know that a lot of people, a lot of fans it seems to be kind of really split, right? Like half are in support of Jimmy G, half are not. The problem right now, this isn't for me about Jimmy G's talent. This is about Jimmy G's ability to stay healthy. And right now, the plain and simple fact is Jimmy G cannot stay healthy. And of the last 3 years, he has only fulfilled his contract of playing every regular season game one time. He tore his ACL in Game 3 against Kansas City in 2018. He's been in and out of the lineup this year, and now he's gone for the next 6 games. And you just start to have to ask yourself, how exactly can we move forward with our franchise quarterback if our franchise quarterback can't play? Now, I am not saying that. I'm not calling for Jimmy's head. I know it's not Jimmy's fault. I know Jimmy wants to be out there more than anybody. This is his life. This is his career. Nobody wants Jimmy G to be on that field more than Jimmy G, except maybe Kyle Shanahan. But having said that, how can we continue at this level without Jimmy G? Now, and here's the thing. You can't say that Jimmy G is just a system quarterback. You can't just say, well, it doesn't matter who's back there. Jimmy G's only good because of Shanahan. That's actually not true, because whenever Shanahan brings in Mullins or Beathard, their success is limited to very little or nothing. So he's not like a magic wand maker that anyone he puts back there instantly turns into a great quarterback. Jimmy G is as important to this system as Kyle Shanahan is in this current regime, in this current time. He is as important. This team kind of lives and dies win-wise by Jimmy G. So the question is, what do we do with a quarterback that can't stay healthy? How do we address this? This is such a unique situation for us that I can't really think of another time this has happened, at least under my 49er watch. And in fact, Ray, I want to share some things to you that Steve Young said that I thought were pretty insightful. So he said, at this point, with those two going out, in reference to Jimmy G and George Kittle, I think going back to the Super Bowl is not going to happen. How do we get into a playoff picture?
that was evident before, but before they went down. But yes, if you want to put a stamp on it, yes, Steve is correct.
Absolutely. He said, how do we get into a playoff picture? You've got to go 6-2 from here. Look at the teams they've got to play. They got the Bills. They got to play in the division. They got to go to New Orleans. This looks like a disastrous year. Then he said, it creates a focus on the one question coming into this year that you had about the 49ers. Can we get to a place where Kyle Shanahan, this innovative offensive coordinator, one of the best head coaches in the league, can find a quarterback that he can trust and be expansive with rather than protect? I think that's been the issue with Jimmy. I think that $25 million and a shrinking salary cap with this injury, I don't know how Jimmy ends up being the quarterback for the 49ers next year. The last thing he said, which I wanted to pull because they're getting different quotes from him from the same interview because this is all on NFL Countdown. He said one more thing. I want to pull it up. He said this. It's about the relationship between Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy. That's what matters. They created a system that Jimmy can be successful in, but it's not the system that Kyle wants to run. Kyle's going to be the coach there for 10 years. He'll be one of the long-term coaches when he's finally done. Does he want Jimmy to concoct an office for him, or does he want somebody who can actually be expansive and do all the things that are in my brain rattling around? He's saying, thinking as Kyle Shanahan. He goes, that's what Kyle wants to do. So, interesting words from Steve Young. And here's my take on it, and then I want to hear your take on it. Okay? I get what he's saying, but here's the problem. Here's the issue. Here's why we don't have those answers. Can Jimmy G is Jimmy G a quarterback that Kyle Shanahan can be expansive with versus protect versus help? You know, can Jimmy G pull off all the things that are rattling inside Kyle Shanahan's brain, as Steve Young said it, right? Well, Raymond, here's the answer. We don't know. He's never playing. He's been on the bench. He's been on IR for 2 seasons, 2 of the last 3. We don't know. You know, that's the problem. And I've been saying this the whole time. Like, you're looking at Jared Goff. He looks decent. But, you know, we've gotten 4 straight years of Jared Goff. So we know what we're getting with him. And now we know, right? Russell Wilson's been around for 10 years. We know what we're getting with him. We don't know what we're getting. Where's the floor? Where's the floor with Jimmy? Where's the ceiling with Jimmy? What's the best he can do? What's the worst he can do? I don't know. No one knows.
Because the worst he can do is get injured and not be on the field at all.
That's, I guess you're right. That is, you know, and that's really where we're at. So this isn't for me, this isn't about criticizing Jimmy. I don't think Jimmy's done anything wrong. I think Jimmy has played like a guy who's been injured for most of the season. And I also think that this lack of consistency over the last 3 years has hindered his either progress. Like, I don't know if we have a great quarterback inside there or if we've got an average quarterback inside there. I don't know which one we have because I don't see Jimmy play long enough to see him actually either evolve or crash. And that's typically what happens with these quarterbacks, right? You either evolve or you crash. And Jimmy can't do either. He's stuck in this loop because he can't get on the field long enough to really develop any type of long-term consistency and really answer the questions we have about Jimmy G and whether or not Jimmy G is truly the franchise quarterback that we need going forward. And that's the toughest part. Anyways, I want to pass it on to you. That's my thoughts on it. Hit me up. Where are you at? What did you think after you hear what Steve Young had to say?
Well, you know, Steve Young's very passionate about the team, and he's definitely got, you know, there was a lot of rational points he made, but there was also a little bit of fandom coming out. You know, the passionate fan, you know, kind of starting to get into panic mode, and I heard a little bit about that, and I think Jimmy comes back next year. I don't see them getting rid of him unless there's some crazy prospect in the draft and unless we like completely tank the season and, you know, fall into a position where one of the top quarterback draft prospects is able to come out of there, then then maybe we do move on from Jimmy, or maybe we move another quarterback and move Jimmy down the depth chart. I mean, again, the way his contract is structured allows the 49ers to move on without taking a really big cap hit. Quan Alexander's trade, which happened today with the New Orleans Saints, takes a bigger dead cap hit than Jimmy G's does, because Jimmy G's is very team friendly. I think it's $2.8 million in dead cap if we move on from Jimmy this year. I'm not sure what it is next year. Just to compare, for comparison's sakes, Quan Alexander, our former middle linebacker, that dead cap space hit is $7 million, but we also saved $16.5 million out of that deal. By the way, we'll revisit that in a second. But I think there is frustration because Jimmy G is an above average quarterback. He has the intangibles and the skill set to do it. He's got enough mobility. Again, Tom Brady doesn't move his ass in the pocket whatsoever, and still has 6 rings under his belt. So obviously you don't have to be super mobile in order to succeed in this league, even though that is where the trend is going. The more athletic the quarterback, the better. The Joe Burrows, the Baker Mayfields, the Tuas, even Aaron Rodgers has been mobile his whole career. Russell Wilson is very mobile his whole career. Patrick Mahomes actually not as mobile as he led on when he first came into the league, but he does not like to run. He's gone on record to say that he actually likes to throw. Imagine that guy in this offense. Good night. I think it would be more prolific than what we see Andy Reid doing. That's for sure. But to me, I think Jimmy's just kind of soft, in terms of durability. I think mentally he's tough, but physically he's not. He's just not. He can't take hits. His body's fragile. Remember, he busted his shoulder when he filled in for Tom Brady, when Tom Brady was serving that suspension. He couldn't stay healthy for the 4 games that he was required to stay healthy. That's it. He just had to play a quarter of a season and couldn't do it and injured his shoulder. He came over to us.
Didn't he also break his leg?
No, not in New England. It was a shoulder injury.
Okay.
He tore his ACL with us.
That's right.
So he busted his shoulder, traded for him, got him the next year or that same year, I can't remember. Played 5 games straight and won all 5 games. Signed him to the big contract. 2018 tore his ACL week 3. He was done for the year. Came back in 2019, helped lead us to the Super Bowl. Then comes back in 2020 and can't get over this high ankle sprain, and now he's done for a long period of time. We're just going to see a whole lot of Nick Mullins and possibly C.J. Beathard. Nick Mullins craps the bed, which can happen in any game, by the way. That's the difference is, Jimmy G, you knew you were getting some degree of consistency that was above the degree of consistency that Nick Mullins and C.J. Beathard can dish out. But now we don't have that luxury. We also don't have any weapons. George Kittle's done. Deebo Samuel's, week to week. Don't know if he'll play this Thursday on a short turnaround. I expect more Kendrick Bourne and Brandon Ayuk this week. But that's different. We're not talking about previews right now. And this week kind of odd because we have a Thursday game. Our Thursday recordings are on preview, so the schedule's a little funky this week for us. But the running game. Tevin Coleman came back. He's injured. So now what happens? You go back to Jared McKinnon's tired legs and JaMychal Hasty's rookiness. That's a liability there. You have one who can catch the ball well but can't run the ball well, and you have one who hasn't who's only got 2 looks in that last game for 2 yards in the passing game. That's JaMychal Hasty. And was not very good in the run game against a really shitty run defense that looked all pro. Of course, Seattle plays their best game against us defensively, and then it's just going to wet the bed the rest of the season until they play us again towards the end of the season. I just don't understand it. But it's annoying that they play like shit all year, but then they always can put it together for us. It's just annoying. And again, they were the better team, and they were also the healthier team. We were not the healthiest team coming into that contest, and that proved to keep us from ever getting to the conversation of being the better team, because we were far from it. So, but I mean, I'm kind of ranting, but to go back and kind of put a bow on the Jimmy G conversation, I'm inclined to think he's going to return next season, but if the Niners end up tanking the season, not intentionally, but just because they just have so many pieces gone that they can't pull out wins, and end up getting a high draft pick again, then there is a chance they do draft a quarterback as an insurance, because C.J. Beathard's probably not the answer, even though Kyle Shanahan likes him and believes in him and thinks that he's got, a particular skill set that can be tapped into. I don't see C.J. Beathard refining those skills and turning into something special. I just don't. And Nick Mullins, we all know, I know some people out there, friends of mine, like Nick Mullins, but I'm sorry. He's just as good as a backup quarterback. He's a starter on like a really shitty team, but he's not a starter. I just don't see him as a bona fide starter to help lead a team to a championship. Not that kind of guy. I mean, I get it. Rex Grossman, who's far inferior to Nick Mullins, rode the back of the Chicago Bears defense to a Super Bowl. But that's an exception to the rule, not the rule. But yeah, I see Jimmy G coming back next year, but I do have question marks as to whether he is the long-term answer, because he just can't stay healthy. That's the only issue with him. He takes a hit, he goes down. So I don't get it. He tries to run out of bounds, he tears his ACL. He gets tackled by by the way, he got tackled by Kiko Alonso, the linebacker that we just got acquired from Miami. That is the one that messed up his shoulder when he played for New England. And by the way, we got a unconditional fifth round draft pick out of that deal. So, but we get a guy who's 6'3", 239 pounds, and has torn his ACL 3 times in his career. So good luck staying healthy on this team. Welcome, Kiko Alonso.
Yeah, welcome. And say a prayer and put like a little rosary next to that ACL, because it's definitely in trouble. Raymond, but let's talk about the real culprits. This is kind of the people that have been buried in this conversation that no one really has mentioned, and that's an offensive line. It's their job to protect Jimmy G. Remember what did I say going into his first season? I've said this a million times. On Thanksgiving, when Jimmy Garoppolo's grandmother goes in for a kiss, I want an offensive lineman knocking her down. I mean, I want this guy to be the bubble boy. The movie, the bubble boy movie where John Travolta lives inside the bubble and he can't leave the bubble. Like maybe it's not the bubble boy anymore. Maybe it's quarantine boy. I mean, Jimmy G's in quarantine at all times. No human contact. It's like he has COVID, or like everybody has COVID and he can't touch anybody. Jimmy G, the unsung culprits, not the unsung heroes, the unsung culprits in all of this. Everyone wants to point to Jimmy G. Well, it's Jimmy G's job to protect himself out there. That guy was getting pummeled out there. How many sacks did we have on the day? I'm looking right now.
3 sacks. 3 sacks.
3, not counting the tons of hits he got too. I mean, right. So a ton of them, left and right. It is the offensive line's job. As I said a million times, when his grandmother goes in for a kiss, I want a center there pushing her down. And we were really acceptable up the middle, as we have been all year. And then they kept getting us on that end, man. They kept burning McGlinchey. They burned McGlinchey several times on those big sacks over there. And I was pretty disappointed with the O-line. The O-line has one job: protect Jimmy G. That is the most important job. That is more important than opening a run hole. That is more important than any other part of their job, which is protect the quarterback. And they're the ones that are getting away. They're getting out with far less criticism. Jimmy G's getting 10 times more criticism for getting hurt. But what about the offensive line that's supposed to protect him? Those guys are supposed to protect him, and they did not. And I think that was probably one of the most disappointing parts of that game.
Yeah, I mean, Bobby Wagner got 2 of those 3 sacks on the day, and he also had 4 quarterback hits. 4 quarterback hits from him alone. There was a total of 8 quarterback hits in addition to 3 sacks. So, you do the math there. The O-line is playing like absolute trash. And I know we're missing some pieces that we didn't have last year, but we also still have some pieces that played last year that for some reason are just regressed in terms of consistency. So I don't understand it. They've just taken a huge step back this year. Part of it is health. Part of it is something else. I don't know exactly what that is. So I do know this, that any quarterback back there is going to be subject to some brutal hits, especially considering that we're on our third string center at this point.
That's definitely, like I said, they are definitely the unsung culprits in this. I think they're the ones that have kind of gotten out with the least amount of criticism, but I definitely would think they need to share the lion's share of this blame. Jimmy G's not there to protect himself, and that's, I've already said that. I don't want to go in circles, but absolutely.
Yeah, it's literally not his job. His job is to make plays for the offense. It is the offensive lineman's description on his W-2 is to protect the quarterback.
Absolutely. I believe it says protect Jimmy G on every single one of those. Now that's going to say protect Nick Mullins. Raymond, I asked this tough question several weeks ago, and I'm asking it again. Is our season over as far as our revenge season?
The revenge season is completely 100% over. At this point, we're fighting for 8-8, and if we're lucky, 6-10. Or I'm sorry, 10-6 is best case scenario now. There is no other scenario that is a best case scenario. The dignified record that we would love to end up with is 8-8, but I think right now we're looking more closer to 6-10.
Oof. Ugh.
That's what I think. That's where I think this is headed.
Yeah. I can hear Johnny Dell's heart breaking right now.
Yes, and his wife staying clear, very far and clear.
Yeah, I am no fun to deal with on Sunday when the Niners lose. And like you, I actually took a 10-minute break. I literally walked away for about 10 minutes from the game, and then I came back and finished it. So it's just so much, man. It's such a bummer. Raymond, we're going to end on one more positive note. That is a wrap. We will be back later with our preview episode of the week. But before we do that, I want to talk about the return of the classic Warriors Oakland uniform, the classic, the dark blue with the orange. I think this is also a little bit of a marketing ploy. The salty East Bay fans are pretty upset that the Warriors are gone. The Raiders are gone. They feel like everyone's left them. And I think this is a little bit of a way of making them feel good. But I will say this, I'm not the biggest fan of it saying Oakland, but I'm a huge fan of those uniforms. I just like the throwback. What do you think about the uniforms?
It's whatever. Anything. I mean, no offense to the city of Oakland, but they've never been able to keep nice things in regards to sports teams. So why even waste the fabric to stitch the word Oakland on those jerseys? Gosh.
Anyone who listens to us from Oakland, I think we just lost all of them right there.
We did. So Dave Medina, sorry.
I like them. I think the uniforms are pretty cool. I'm okay with them. All right. What say you, GoldCast Nation? What can we do to salvage this season? Are we now tanking for a high draft pick? I mean, obviously we're not consciously tanking. This team is too prideful to ever do that. But they're
going to compete. They're going to compete.
We're going to fight the whole time. Even if we're going down every game, we're going to fight the whole time.
Yeah, but we're fighting with a broken wrist and a separated shoulder on the other arm. That's how we're punching right now. Broken wrist, separated shoulder.
Last thing, Raymond, I forgot to ask you this question. I want to ask you a question because I want to ask GoldCast Empire. Do we draft a quarterback?
That's a good one.
Or do we find a way to get Dak Prescott when he heals?
It really depends on the record that we end up with and the draft position again. So that's what I see. I'm not just going to throw it out there willy-nilly. I'm going to do this a logical, analytical way that the professor of analysis or fanalism does, which is if we end up with a below 500 record, there's a chance we draft a quarterback. If we end up 500 in the mid-range, I doubt it. I think we're probably looking something closer to corner.
All right. Well, there you have it. Now the question to you, GoldCast Empire. Do the 49ers draft a quarterback? Is Jimmy G still on the roster next year? Let us know in the comments. Go to youtube.com/thegoldcast. Let us know right down there and what you think. Do we draft a quarterback? Do the 49ers keep Jimmy G? Does he stay on the roster? Let us know. And so concludes another edition of the GoldCast. We are the voice of the Bay. I'm your host, Rudy3, and with me is my brother, my co-host.
Raymond Salisa first, baby. Stay healthy. Take care of your bodies.
Boom. That's right. Stay healthy. Take care of your bodies. And don't forget to vote.